For this session, I wrote 162 words. For this session, I wrote 30 words. For this session, I wrote 148 words.
No, I'm speaking only of the riffraff. In every period of transition, this riffraff, which exists in every society, rises to the surface and is not only without any aim, but has not even a symptom of an idea. It merely does its utmost to give expression to uneasiness and impatience. Moreover, this riffraff almost always falls unconsciously under the control of the little group of advanced people who do act with a definite aim, and this little group can direct all this rabble as it pleases, if only it does not itself consist of absolute idiots, which, however, is sometimes the case. Instead of putting the facts in a decorous light, as an exploit worthy of ancient Rome or something of the sort, he simply appealed to their animal fears and laid stress on the danger to their own skins, which was simply insulting. Of course, there was a struggle for existence in everything, and there was no other principle in nature. They all knew that, but still. I know, too, that you haven't mastered the idea, but the idea has mastered you, so you won't put it off. Those excerpts were from The Possessed by Dostoevsky, which I am almost finished with. It's been a quieter week for me, which I am happy for. I think after the holidays, it just takes me a while to settle into my own skin again. And contrary to the January resolutioners, I have been rethinking my January in a new light. In the past, I would have been the first to be doing the absolute most in January, but this year I've decided to really flip it on its head and do something totally new for myself, which is to absolutely try to do the least this month. I've been spending time in contemplation, really not having an agenda for my days other than the minimum viable activity I need to do to take care of myself. I've been focusing deeply on my breath and body work, and I've really relaxed on my fitness activities as well. I have been contemplating the underworld, the beneath the soil existence, and I've been meditating on Dionysus and the Dionysian ways. Dionysus has been radically misunderstood in our Western culture, often attributed with the subconscious, the unformed, the unknown, which in the Western culture is a terrifying zone. Dionysus is often attributed to vice, depravity, bacchanalia, and in Christian and Jewish religions, Dionysus has become represented as the devil. This past week, I finished a book that explored this misunderstanding of Dionysus. It is a very slim book, very easy to read, concise but insightful enough to get your mind thinking or good for a refresher. And it's called Ecstasy: Understanding the Psychology of Joy by Robert A. Johnson. I would recommend it if you are new to exploring Dionysus, or if you need a refresher. Also, if you're just looking for something slim and easy to read in between larger works. It's not a comprehensive book by any means, and actually I don't know of any other books out there that really explore the concepts of Dionysus in a favorable way, really because culturally, historically, we have buried Dionysus in favor of the Apollonian ways. The Apollonian ways are what we commonly understand as the patriarchy, the ego-driven ways of reason and willpower. The Apollonian ways can be understood as a masculine orientation instead of the feminine orientation, or it could be understood as the logic orientation instead of the illogic orientation. It is the animus, not the anima. Traditionally, in modern culture, I think people approach January very much in a masculine manner, the apollonian manner. But if you look at nature, it very much is not the picture of what we see modeled in culture, at least in the northern hemisphere. Nature rests in January. I've been thinking about this a lot, that I am not apart from nature. I am not distinct or separate from it. In fact, nature is an extension of my existence. And so to conduct myself in a way that goes against nature, it means that I have chosen division with it, and then I live as a divided soul. So this January, I am taking seriously my alignment and attunement with nature. I am staying beneath the ground, in the soil, really incubating what wants to grow in my life down the road later on this year. And instead of jumping to make changes, I'm really sitting with the changes that I think I want to make and feeling them out first, and feeling out the discomfort I perceive in this inactivity, in this passivity, and really making peace with that first. This is the antithesis to culture, which dictates that we should act quickly and massively. But I think that if there is any place to move slow, it would be in this foundational place at the beginning, before we add in all the details and flesh out our painting. I'm not a painter, but I have been watching some videos on YouTube about painters, artists, and their process. I've seen a handful of videos on painters emulating the masters, and one strategy that really struck me is this technique called blocking, and I'm not sure if I'm applying this term correctly, but effectively this technique goes without an outline of the image the painter wants to capture, and instead uses a base layer of paint to block out the proportions of that image. I've noticed that generally across the board, artists are very careful with the stage of setting up the proportions before they move on to layering on other details of the painting and really bringing that painting to life. The common instruction I've heard from these artists is that it's easier to also correct mistakes at this stage than it is down the road. So applying that to my life, I think about my January as the foundational setup stage, where I'll stay here in this stage until I make peace with my discomfort, with my dissatisfaction. And the idea is that the peace I come to with my dissatisfaction is the correct proportion to then allow me to really launch off and make the changes that are right for me. What this really captures is the idea of perspective. I think too often we jump to make changes without perspective, and this is what causes serious misalignment throughout the course of the year. I'm going to take a really simple and common example, such as fitness. Let's say for New Year's, you decide, you resolve to get into the best shape of your life because you're tired of your body as it is. That sounds great up front, that you want to take care of yourself, that you want a healthier lifestyle perhaps, but is that really the perspective you are approaching these changes in your body for? It could very well be a superficial reason that you've applied to make your decision look more appealing, but deep down it could be that you really are dissatisfied with your body image, and that's a very different subject matter. So if you take a step back to gain perspective instead of immediately jumping to sign on to a gym membership that may not really be what you actually need to take care of yourself, you might come to realize that, you know what, I actually really need to spend time outside. I need to get outside in nature, and maybe I can just start walking more. So taking that step back and sitting with your dissatisfaction and really getting to the roots of it can allow you to access totally novel solutions that you wouldn't otherwise have considered in light of all the marketing ploys that we exist in. So then, instead of immediately going to the gym and grinding hard at the gym and then burning yourself out, which by the end of the month, usually these resolutioners end up amounting to anyways, you have an action that you can sustain throughout a longer period of time that actually gives you a sense of well-being and can actually help you reconnect with your body from its roots. Ultimately then, the dissatisfaction with your body isn't about what it looks like, but more so that you have not connected with it and how you feel in your body generally. That's it for this vlog. I'm gonna get to my writing session later today, and then once I have that done, I will add that clip at the end.
For this session, I wrote 102 words.